When the prophet Job lost his family, his words were, Adonai natan va'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. The Lord gave, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be God's name. And these have to be our words now as we face the loss of our husband, father, grandfather, relative, and friend, Richard Trau. And we say Adonai Natan, that the Lord gave us Dick. He enriched our lives, made the world a better place. And now, unfortunately, Adonai Lakach, and now God has taken him from our midst. But because we were so privileged to have him as part of our world, we say thank you, God, with the words, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. Blessed be God's name for having lent him to us for these many years. This is a time in which we need comfort, so we do what Jews have done throughout the centuries. We look to the book of Psalms, and there in the 121st Psalm it says, Esa Enai El Haharim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri, Me'im Adonai Osei Shemayim Va'aretz. I lift up mine eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian, God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. Adonai yeshmar tzeitcha uvoecha me'ata v'ad olam. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. And together as a congregation, we recite the words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Adonai ma'adam v'teda ehu, ben enosh v'tachash vehu. O God, what are we that you have regard for us, and what are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are as a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to revert to dust, saying, Return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright, they shall have peace. God, you redeem the soul of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate. And in the book of Ecclesiastes it is written, L'chol zaman v'la'et l'chol chefetz takat hashamayim, et la'ledev v'et la'mut, et la'tad v'et la'kur netiyah. For everything there is a season. For every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. And this is just one of those moments which is both. A time to keep silent. When you're a mourner, you find it very difficult to speak. But on the other hand, what we know about mourning is that you talk your way through grief. So those of you who come to pay a condolence call, the more that you can get the family to speak, the better off they will be and to tell the story of Dick's life. On the other hand, one of the great things you can do, because most of us don't know what to say when we come to a house of Shiva, the best thing that you can do is tell them a story about how Dick touched your lives. And that will be a very important gift that you would give them. And I would only say, don't worry if they start to cry. That's their job. You're there to be the comforters of the mourners, just to let them know that you care, and your presence is the greatest gift that you can give them. So to begin this storytelling of Dick Trau's life, I call upon the grandchildren, and I ask them to come forward as a group as they tell their experience with Dick.
Thank you for coming. For those of you who don't know me, Grandpa's.
Speak a little louder.
Okay. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Grandpa's oldest grandchild, Matt, and this is all of the Grandpa's grandchildren. This is Amanda, Morgan, Justin, and Scott. My grandpa was a man of few words, so to honor him, I'll try to keep this brief. He was a humble man, and I never heard him talk about himself. I can't tell you how many people I'd meet, though, who would ask if I was related to him. Like clockwork, the first few things they'd mention were that he was a good man, he looked like a movie star, and he was a hell of a ball player. I learned a lot from my grandpa. He taught me how to wash a car, how to shine my shoes, how to shoot a BB gun, and how to throw a curveball. Most importantly, I watched him and saw the value of hard work and laughter. We'd always go out to dinner with all the grandchildren and try to make him laugh because his laugh was so contagious. He was so lighthearted that sometimes he would start laughing uncontrollably, that he'd tear up and everyone in the room would be laughing hysterically. Growing up, we all loved spending summer with Grandpa. He always came to our sporting events and we'd play putt-putt once a week, minimum. I think we went to their public pool in Aurora for 30 straight days, and we'd always bring friends. We could never spend enough time at their house on Hilltop, eating Grandma's amazing cookies, especially the thin chocolate chips. I used to love playing with Grandpa's old glove that had the individual finger holes that he gave it to me. My grandpa was really tough too. In fact, I don't use hand lotion to this day because I once heard Grandpa say that it's for wimps. He fought a lot of diseases as a senior. He beat prostate cancer and battled Parkinson's for a decade. My brother Justin and I visited Grandpa from Chicago last week when he was put in hospice care. I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to spend time with him before he passed away. The last conversation I ever had with him was about family. He asked me if I thought I'd ever come home to Cleveland. I told him that I wanted to settle down here because it's where my family is from and that means something. He smiled and said he was really glad to hear it. And we all loved him very much. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. So for those of you who knew my grandpa, you knew that he grew up in a family of men. His father had 3 brothers. He had only sons, and then his, first 3 grandchildren were the boys. And so I think when Morgan and I were born, he wasn't exactly sure what to do with us. But his past with just the boys didn't matter. He was so patient and playful with us. I remember a time that Morgan and I were young, and we had gotten a makeup kit, and we decided that we wanted to give Grandpa a makeover. And we spent probably over an hour putting on the brightest lipsticks and blush and every eyeshadow color you can think of, clip-on earrings. And the entire time, he just sat there still. He looked in the mirror, told us how great it looked. He laughed so much that he had tears in his eyes, which was a laugh, like Matthew said, that was so contagious. And, he just, he cherished spending time with his grandchildren more than anything. And, we got to see such a candid, happy side of him, especially after retirement when he committed himself to spending time with his family. And, all of us have cherished these moments and had, all of these stories that we can all talk about when, Grandpa was in his fits of laughter, and we the rest of us, no matter what was going on in our lives, we could only smile. And, after I graduated college this semester, I, spent some time in Cleveland and was able to spend some time with Grandpa. And I remember right before I moved to New York recently, I got to talk to him just about where I was going and moving, and he was, so proud of me and just told me how excited he was that I was moving to the big city. And, that was one of our last conversations, just about my job. And, he always checked in and wanted to hear about it. And I just, I know how proud him and Grandma are of all five of us. And we love him, and we will miss him dearly. And thank you.
I never learned as a rabbi that I should go first, and of course it's very hard to follow such an emotional, beautiful speeches. Barbara, and Craig and Mark and Lisa and Bill and Dana, and Matthew and Scott and Justin, Amanda and Morgan, others, Barbara and Sid, Oliver Shalom and Bobby, and lifelong friends who are here. I see Bill Randall here, Bert Randall, as I sat after talking with you, the first thing that came to my mind were the words from the love story. Where do I begin to tell the story of a love affair that lasted 62 and a half years? Do I begin with his birth in 1932 to Clarence and Margaret? He was an only child, adored by his parents, and he in turn absolutely adored them. He greatly admired his father. He learned the diamond business from him, and of course was absolutely devastated when he was only 23 and his father died. He was devoted throughout his entire life to his mother. He was a wonderful son. So here was an all-star pitcher at Heights High School, goes off to Ohio University, plays ball there as well, and then volunteers to go into the Coast Guard for a couple of years. Look at the picture over there. Isn't it fabulous? That movie star look. He came home, pitched for John Carroll, went to school there, played semi-pro ball, and then two things happened. One, he got a great job. He was a rep for many, many years in the jewelry business, as most of you know, the Spidell wristbands, which all of your friends love because they were able to get them for their girlfriends. And he sold Calibri lighters, and he was terrific at it. His customers trusted him. As you told me the story, he would walk into their jewelry store, and while others were sitting there to sell, he'd walk around and take inventory for them, go into the vault, come out, and he'd write the order, and the guy would simply sign it. The second thing which happened to him with those movie star looks and his popularity with the women, he was out on a date one night, and there was a woman. Am I allowed to tell the story, Barbara? Sure. I can tell it. And you were out with another man, and I'm not sure who stole who from whom, but there it was. The two of them met. He called her, and the rest was history. History with a dedication to one another and to the family. Barbara, you captured Dick's heart, and he yours, and it was a lifetime dedication. Just one example will surely show it. Barbara was there for him during all of this last stage. He was 45 days in Menorah Park. Guess where she slept for 45 days? On a cot in Menorah Park. Took her showers there, too, I heard. They're going to charge you for the water. So, but she made sure that he had everything he needed. She changed him. He had good non-kosher food. Is that the story over there? I won't tell how you broke your hip and were in the wheelchair, huh? I can, hiding the non-kosher food over there. By the window, behind the curtain, where nobody would think to look. You were there for him every way throughout your marriage. When he had other operations, there you were. With your care, you extended Dick's life greatly. Of course, as you told me, it was somewhat easy caring for Dick since he never complained. In fact, at one point, he felt embarrassed that you had given him a bell, and I don't know which one of the operations it was, but he was to ring it when he needed something, and he rang it so much, but he felt terrible that he had to do that. He was a man who was stoic, quiet, honorable, as the grandchildren have told us. He was never a braggart. In fact, you, his own sons, like your sons and daughters, didn't know about his baseball achievements until others in the community told you about them. And that last name, that famous last name of Trau, that would immediately trigger off. Here was a man who was simple in a good way, besides not putting on lotion. He painted his own house every year. He washed and waxed his own cars. Never took them to a car wash. I love the story you told me about one of your friends coming over and parking his car in the driveway, and Dad had to move it, and he also cleaned it out for them and said, never come back here if your car, is he here? No, I don't know if he's here or not, but he did his own yard work, trimmed around the bed with small clippers. He did not require much to make him happy. He gave to the community through his volunteer work as a baseball coach, a manager, a commissioner of Beechwood Little League, and eventually its president. And let me remind you, that is no easy job when you're dealing with parents of future baseball players who are going to be the next MVP of the world. But he changed many a child's life through their participation and what he had managed to accomplish for them and provide for them. And he was made happy through his love of family. Barbara and he just loved being with his boys, with their families. As we heard, he would go out and hit, every night, hit grounders to them or teach them how to throw a curveball. He would go to all of their sporting and extracurricular events, sat in the rain when it required. He did it for each of you, his grandchildren, Matthew, Scott, Justin, Amanda, and Morgan. And what a close-knit family you were. And you, Mark and Bill, with your mates, Lisa and Dana, were so devoted to Dad. It was so terrific. Mark, I do want to mention the many hours of care, your being there every day for Dad in every way. And Bill, I love that story you told me about taking him to the spring training with Bob Feller and so forth, and provided an opportunity with Bob and the two of them just sharing memories and so forth. All of you admired Dick's standards by which he lived. If you were on time, you were already late. You had to be there a half hour early. Pay attention to the fundamentals was his theory. He was never a complainer about his surgeries, and they were many of shoulder replacement, knee replacement, we heard prostate, Parkinson's. Whatever he had, it didn't matter because he didn't complain about it. He plowed through them. You admired that he invited his mother-in-law to come and live with him. This is what we call a real mensch of a person. And you admired his work ethic. He never missed work if he could help it. If you're going to do something, do it right. Put your heart into it. Certainly you, his children, and your children have learned this message. For he and Barbara created upstanding and responsible human beings. And in turn, you've done that for your children, one generation to another, Lador Vador. Dick was admired by all of you in the family for not only that sense of humor. As you indicated, you don't get him laughing, right? It's contagious and infectious. And he didn't stop until the tears rolled down his cheeks. I love the video that you showed me the other night. His daughters-in-law, Lisa and Dana, saw him as warm, happy, and lovable. And you loved him as well. Dick was, as we heard, just admired overwhelmingly by his grandchildren. And you know that he put you first and supported you emotionally in every way that he could. Pee-wee, you didn't tell us the story, which is Morgan, of playing with your curls, or Amanda playing catch. I love the story that Amanda told me about his playing Marco Polo with her in the house, which is really hide and seek. It took me a long time to figure that out, but he would hide, and he would not give it away. You know, it was, you earned it. That's one of his lessons of life. He didn't just let her win. He taught all the boys baseball, as we heard, even with his bad shoulder, and he loved the Indians and had season tickets to the Browns. None of you talked about his being a dog lover and loving to walk with the dogs. And all of you and everyone in this family could depend on your grandma and your grandpa and your dad. I get a kick out of the fact that they didn't travel a lot. They once went to Mexico on a cruise, right? But they came home early. I mean, who gets off a cruise ship to come home to the family? But they did. Life for the two of them together was all about the kids. As we've heard over and over again, Dick was a quiet and proud man, and should be for all that he accomplished quietly. He was a role model to this family. And Dick was a wonderful friend to people like Bert Randall. How many other here are his friends? And nobody raises their hands? What are you doing here if you're not his friend? But you've come to honor him. Honor him for his loyalty and devotion to his friends and to this community and his family. Nobody had a bad thing to say about Dick Trau. So now I wish I could do it, but in his best Donald Duck impersonation, which he did so well, he might say these words to us of a friend of mine who wrote and was a poet, wrote under the name of Sean Yettle. And he wrote the following poem, which I think is appropriate for Dick Trau. He wrote, I would hope I've done well, that my lifetime record shows me a giver, not a taker. Hopefully lightened hearts, created laughter and light, with effort sincere, sought poor and ill, and carrying their fight. If when I go, memory sparks a precious tender thought, wherein one recalls that I raised my hand and also fought. So if a home is happier because I was there and tried, then friend, not only did I live, I never really died. Dick Trau is going to live in the memories of this family and this community for a long time because he was a humble mensch. And he left a lasting impression upon this family. So we say to Dick Trau, Lech Lecha, go in peace. Go in peace, Richard Trau, the son of Clarence and Margaret Trau. Now, I know that there are other things you wish I would have said, or you would have said if you were up here and would like to have Dick here. But let's do that in the next couple of moments in silence as we speak to him ourselves. We pray silently. For Dick Trau's love that united us in life, and which death cannot sever. For his companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues to the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. And may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. And let us all say, Amen. We rise for the El Malay Rachamim. El Malay Rachamim. Shochein Bam Ramim. Hamsei menucha nechuna tachat kanfei hashechina. Im kedoshim ataharim kazohar harakia mazhirim. Et nishmat Rachmael ben Kalman v'Miriam. Shahalach la'olamo. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence. To Richard A. Trau, the son of Clarence and Margaret Trau, who has entered eternity. Bal harachamim yastirehu b'seder kanafav lolamim v'yitzror bitzror ha'haim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. You may be seated. This concludes our service here. And we continue at the graveside. The family then will receive at Mark and Lisa's home, which is at 41 Pepper Creek Drive, this afternoon until 8 o'clock. Contributions are suggested to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation.